After eliciting the first grunt from the captured rebel, Roka took it as a victory for his ruthless tactics. He circled back to stand dominantly over Turul, his towering frame casting a shadow of intimidation. His eyes sparkled with malice, and a sinister smile spread across his lips, as he took in the sight of the magnificent physique before him, scrutinizing each detail with cruel satisfaction. Turul's physical response was immediate and defiant. His hands, shackled and constrained, clenched tightly into fists once more, his arms straining against the cold iron. His chest heaved upward, a ready stance that spoke of his unyielding spirit. His eyes, fierce and unblinking, locked onto the giants, with a challenge that held no trace of fear. Roka reasserted his dominance with a coarse demand, his voice dripping with authority.
Lesson 1.
He growled.
Ye address me as Master Roka.
His words, laced with a brusque command, cut through the air, making it clear that compliance was not just expected, but mandatory. His imposing figure and stern gaze reinforced the severity of his order, leaving no room for disobedience. Instead of acknowledging the command, the young captive slowly shifted his gaze from the slave master's face to a distant point ahead. This deliberate action was a clear display of his defiance. By intentionally ignoring the order, Turul communicated his resistance, refusing to submit to the authority imposed upon him. A prolonged silence ensued, heavy with the tension of a charged standoff. This encounter resembled a duel between two seasoned warriors, more than a typical power struggle. Each took the opportunity to carefully evaluate the other, not solely based on physicality, but also considering mental resilience and resolve. This mutual assessment intensified the atmosphere into a multifaceted battle of wills, with each striving to gauge the strength and determination of the other in this critical showdown. It was Roka who grew impatient, his mood souring with each passing moment of Turul's silent defiance. Unable to tolerate the challenge to his authority any longer, he snapped, his voice tinged with irritation.
All right then. Have it your way.
He barked, the roughness of his tone betraying his frustration. This outburst underscored his inability to control the situation as planned, revealing a crack in his facade of unshakable dominance. Without warning, the slave master unleashed a sudden and brutal assault. He drove his hook deep into Turul's midsection, targeting the taut bricks of abdominal muscles. The move was a low and unfair trick, the thud of the impact resonating, as an apparent betrayal of any semblance of a fair fight. This underhanded blow underscored his willingness to exploit any advantage, highlighting the ruthlessness in subduing those under his control. Turul's abdominal wall sunk in sharply by Roka's sudden strike, expelling the air involuntarily through his open mouth. Though no other sound accompanied this visceral reaction, the impact of the vicious hook felt like a sledgehammer pounding against him. Only his thick muscle fibers, stout as a brick wall, protected his internal organs from the brutal, unanticipated assault. This forceful, pained breath spoke volumes about the intense suffering he endured. Roka unleashed a series of punches on his muscular prey, each blow strategically aimed to maximize pain and disorientation. However, these strikes were less effective than the initial hook, because Turul, anticipating the assault, skillfully braced himself against each impact. Frustrated by such resilience, and the absence of the expected pain vocalizations, the cruel tormentor recognized that his current tactics failed to break the young fighter's spirit, as he had hoped. The giant of a man abandoned his fists, in favor of using the claws of both hands, aiming for a more agonizing approach. His calloused hands precisely targeted the lateral edges of Turul's pectorals, focusing on the muscle tails as they extended into the anterior walls of the axillae. Here, the muscle slabs thinned out, their fibers less dense and robust, making them more vulnerable to pain. Roka's nails dug viciously into the thinner yet still dense muscles, pressing deeper with relentless force like metal pincers. Finally, his efforts were rewarded. A harsh, manly grunt escaped Turul's lips, a sound wrought from the depths of agony. This grunt, though reluctant, was exactly what the oppressive overseer had been striving to hear, marking a momentary victory in his brutal campaign of domination. The new slave's reaction was fierce despite his constraints. A guttural sound vibrated from between his clenched teeth, as his body strained against the tight bondage, leaving him immobile. Like the slave master, his hands formed into claws rather than fists. But his were not tools of aggression. They were manifestations of his pain and defiance, curling involuntarily from the intense pressure exerted on his frame. This mirrored posture between captor and captive underscored the stark contrast in their conditions. One wielding power, the other resisting it with every fiber of his being.